Let's bring in Missouri Senator Roy Blunt. He's chairman of the Senate Republican Conference. And, sir, if I could just have you listen to one of the FBI agents. He's a FBI agent associate president. And I think that you'll agree it's quite troubling. Watch.
Realistically, FBI agents should not have to go work at a store stocking shelves because they can't feed their families on their government job. This lack of funding to the FBI is hurting operations, it is hurting personnel across the board, and it is going to hurt our recruitment, and it is going to hurt our retention.
And Senator, I'm sure we'll get no argument from you that the shutdown should end eventually, and we'll get to the how. But I just wonder what you're hearing in terms of the pressure from these federal workers and the concern that you might have.
Well, first of all, thanks to all the federal workers that are showing up for work, the essential workers that need to be there, and they're showing up, not being paid. Everything that the clip you had me listen to, everything that FBI agent said is exactly right. Of course they should be at work. Of course they should be being paid. And you shouldn't have to have some supplemental job while you're doing your normal government work or while you're prevented from doing your normal government work. We need to get this over with. People need to get back to work. Frankly, I think the president, who is not famously flexible, has been much more flexible in terms of moving to a different place than the Democrats have. He's essentially moved dramatically from where he was during the campaign on border security issues to where he's pretty much in line with the last four presidents, wants to do essentially what the last four presidents did, was to maintain what's been built, to extend it a little bit further. And the Democrats, Dana, have moved just exactly the other way. They have more than often than not been for all of the pieces that the president's put in his proposal. It was the Obama proposal that you seek asylum in your host country. It was, I think, actually a Durbin bill, the Bridge Act, that sets some of the standards for what you do with DACA kids. Those kids that grew up here and didn't get in any trouble need to be able to stay here. We need to figure that out. But it's now time for the other side to say, okay, if that deal's not good enough, what would they like to add to it to make it even better, rather than say no negotiation until we open the government back up? We won't know anything 3 weeks from now we don't know today.
But to that point, do you think that there might be an opening, maybe not from the speaker herself, but from Steny Hoyer, the majority leader, or from James Clyburn, number 3 there in the House, who basically said, let's go forward, let's give the president some of this money. Now, Clyburn says not for physical structures, for other things, but to me it seems like two reasonable people should be able to come to the table and work out that deal.
Well, I also heard you talk about what Colin Peterson, the Democrat chairman of the Ag Committee, was saying. I think there's clearly some movement beginning. You know, we've been in a place where I think both sides thought they were winning. I think we're getting to the place where both sides think they're losing in terms of what the American people expect them to do. Mr. Hoyer, Mr. Clyburn, Mr. Peterson, and others are beginning to show some interest in doing what the Congress is supposed to do, which is debate your differences, find a place that you can agree on, and move forward. We need to do that, and I frankly think the president's effort over the weekend was the first step in putting ideas out there that you could further debate.
But as the conference chair, are you concerned that as this has gone on, public opinion hasn't really moved in the president's direction? In fact, it's kind of moved beyond it in terms of his approval rating. Only 48% of the American people think he needs to do a State of the Union. Are you worried that the Republicans are digging themselves into a hole here?
Well, on the State of the Union, I don't know what the annual view of whether the State of the Union should be done or not would be. But I do know that this is something that every president since Woodrow Wilson has done. The first two presidents gave their State of the Union speech in person. Jefferson didn't particularly like to speak in person, so he started sending it up. But every president since Wilson has come to the Capitol, given that speech, at frankly some pretty tense times, but they were never so tense that the Congress couldn't join together to welcome the president to the legislative branch to give that speech. That ought to happen, and it ought to happen next week.
Well, Senator Roy Blunt of Missouri, we appreciate you coming on. We hope you'll come back. Thank you.
Good to talk to you.